Ooh. Apologize for anybody who's watching this later. But this is live, and I set it up only to realize after that I didn't properly set the angle as far as horizontal or vertical for the phone camera. So here we go. 1 minute in, let's do this. Welcome back to the Djinns Treasure. I'm thinking the reason why I'm doing this live is because I want to do one of my more advanced wraps, and it's gonna take a lot of time, probably more than 30 minutes, honestly closer to like 2 hours. But I just want to show you how to do it. If you have the patience to go back and watch this later and watch the whole thing through, great, you're going to be a better wire wrapper for it. Or if you just want to catch some live feed and just tune in and tune out or whatever. People like to do that too. People like to be entertained. I try to be entertaining. So without further ado, we're going to do I think one of these lapis here. So I got these pretty nice lapis pieces. Let's see. I think, yeah, I'll do this one. I got a really nice deal. Down the street, there's a crystal shop. For those who don't know, currently I'm based out of Sebastopol, California. And if you've never been, Sebastopol is kind of one of those hippie places, more hippier than just being in California, because I know California has a stereotype for being hippie. Sebastopol is even much more so. It's in the North Bay, north of the Golden Gate Bridge. And so if we're gonna do a lapis, I think silver, really lapis looks good with any metal, copper, maybe, I mean more so gold and silver, but I would say you could even pull off copper and lapis as well. So I'm gonna use my Modecraft. Modecraft is that's the brand for this wire. I find that it seems to be like tarnish resistant, and it just seems, I like the complexion of it. It's got a little bit more of a shine to it than other brands. By the way, it's not actually silver, it's silver plated copper. A little bit of a difference there. More affordable for me when I'm doing my wire wraps. And as you noticed, I pulled just like an arm's length string wire, and I'm gonna do the same thing with this other wire that is gonna be like a base it's gonna be the middle base slash coiling wire, and it will also be the frame wire as well. So basically what I'm going to be doing is what I call the triple wrap. So I have, by the way, this is a 20 gauge wire, and then that Modecraft is a 24 gauge wire, which is what I have right here in my hand. So we're gonna we kiss the tips together, slide down, find this loop at the other end, and then this 20 gauge wire, actually what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just wrap on both ends, just to get that long wire kind of more under control. So as you can see now, it's very easy to hold as opposed to my entire wingspan. And this is a really good trick. This is a really good trick for anybody who's looking to step up from like beginner level wire wrapping to more intermediate, and even steps on your way to advanced. So what you saw I did there is kind of just eyeballing the middle of this 20 gauge wire and then I take the 24 gauge wire, throw it around. Remember I had that loop from when I kissed the tips, so that loop is what I thread through here. And so now what we have is kind of middle to middle, and from there we can begin our coiling. And this is going to be quite a long process, especially if you're kind of new to wire wrapping. It's important to make sure that you go slow and do the steps properly, as opposed to just trying to rush to finish or to keep up with my pace. I've been doing this style for like 5 years, so I'm gonna show you the tricks to make the process a lot more expedited and go a lot faster. But it's important that if I show you these tricks that you're not trying to skip steps and cut corners in other ways, and in other words, rushing through the project. So Tosh says, I was surviving games for 10 days. Now I have purple aura. I have no idea what you're talking about. Hi Carly and Maisie. Swati, if you're still here, I'm doing some wire wrapping. I know probably the title of this video currently, before I edit it, doesn't say anything about wire wrapping. It just says that I'm live, but I'm live and I'm wire wrapping. So right now, as I was talking, you could see I got a little bit of a coiled portion here. Not the greatest. I got a phone camera, so at some point I'll invest in a better camera. But anyway, so once I get a little bit of a coiled portion going, what I'm gonna do is do a zigzag like so. So much so that the coiled portion comes out on the lip. It's not so important that it comes out on this top lip, although it would be ideal. And then also what I'm gonna do is the same thing I did with that 20 gauge wire, by wrapping it around my hand to get this little, it looks like a jumbled mess right now, but it's really, believe me, it's for organization. So what I do is I do that, that wrap around my fingers, and then you end up with something like this. And what I do is just bend that a little bit to kind of create this infinity loop or figure eight. And that figure eight really helps keep this wire jumbled up like that, as opposed to if it were just wrapped around my hand like this. As I continue to coil along, this tends to come undone. So by giving that little extra figure eight twist, it really keeps it locked up and organized in this bundle here. So now I'll show you what the whole purpose of that was. So we'll unwind just a little bit, and then this is the cranking method. So you see how I have the zigzag here in the middle, and it makes it easier for me to just go at a little bit of a faster pace and crank out these coils, as opposed to going over and over and over and over. I suppose that's maybe just because my skill makes it look a lot easier, but I do seriously find this crank method to be a lot easier. And then once you get going further out, you'll notice that the wire here will tend to get, so this wire here will tend to get a little mangled, and it becomes more difficult. So what you do in that case is just readjust your crank. So instead of the bend being like right here, it's now out here, and then I can keep going. And then once I build that out some more, as I crank along, I can also pull out this wire and kind of untangle that mess a little bit more, straighten it out. And then once again do another bend and another bend, so 90-degree angle, 90-degree angle, and then keep on winding, twining, cranking, whatever you want to call it. I tend to think of winding as it's like what they refer to as like kind of like twerking. If you're in Jamaica, they don't twerk, they whine the body. I suppose it's kind of the same thing. It's got this circular motion, right? Hi, Arielis. I hope I said that name right. My day is going good. What am I making? I am making a wire wrap. So I am a wire wrapper if you're just tuning into this channel for the first time. And what wire wrapping is, let me show you. Wire wrapping is when you take metal wire and twist it around, say, a crystal or a semi-precious stone or something to create a necklace pendant. So this is a necklace pendant, but this is from one of my, actually my last and latest video. Oh, cool, I got the name right. So this is a wire wrapped pendant. I'm not sure exactly what kind of stone this is. I think it's a jasper or maybe an agate, but you can see how what I did is all this metal work here is just twisting around and creating the frame to create the stone into a pendant. So right now what this mess of a wire is it's going to be a more advanced technique. And so something like this, I could do a tutorial video for something like this in 30 minutes. But in order for me to do something more advanced, it eats up too much memory on my phone to store those videos. So what I'm going to do to kind of get around that is to do a live feed, so that way I don't have to save. It's not eating any memory or data on my phone, and I'll be able to just go direct video to upload. So right now I'm showing the crank method. So what we have here is the as a bend up, bend down, or bend up and bend over. And then now that it's getting long enough on the coiled portion here, I'm just gonna bend so I get another angle there, and then I keep on coiling. Now, in my other videos, if you've seen my other videos, you'll know that I'm pretty particular about wanting to keep my coils nice and tight. This is actually one style of wrapping that you don't need to necessarily keep them tight. In fact, you actually don't want them too tight. It's possible to get them too tight, and you don't want that. So as I come to the end of this wire tip, what I'm going to do is bend these wires back wrapped around, keep that organized, and then start coiling on the other end. Maybe open it up just a little bit more, and then get my zigzag bend here, and now we can continue our cranking, our winding, our twirling, whatever you want to call it. We're doing it. And I'm excited to show you guys the how this because right now I imagine it's like, what is he doing? What is it? How is this gonna become jewelry? But I'm really excited to show you guys the entire process, and then you get to see how this mess of wires turns into some beautiful artwork. Pravenda Singh, I apologize, but I'm not fluent in that language. Hi, Maya. So now, as you can see, we're eating up almost the entire length of this 24 gauge wire, the wire that's coiling around the 20 gauge wire. We're almost to the end of it. Here's what's left. Remember, this was at one point my entire wingspan all the way out. And now it's just the length of a tail, a lizard tail or something. So at this point in the live, oh, we got one. I was about to say, there's nobody in here, but I'll keep talking because, you know, this video will be posted for later as well. My goal with doing these lives, also, it's kind of like two birds, one stone. I was looking at I'm trying to get my channel monetized, and I was looking at the requirements, and I've been in the past posting a bunch of shorts because I saw that despite the shorts being only like 30 seconds long or 15 seconds long, you can reach a wider audience. And so I get a lot more views, but also, believe it or not, I get a lot more watch time hours off of a 15-second short than I do a 3-hour video. And it kind of makes sense because, you know, the way people's attention span works, you're gonna, 1 out of 100 people might have the patience to watch an entire 3-hour video in one sitting, whereas if you send to 100 people a 15-second video, you can do the math on that. Those 15 seconds multiplied by 100 will add up to a greater watch time hours. But the thing is, all of those shorts watch time hours, they actually don't even count towards getting my channel monetized. And I think it's like 4,000, maybe 4,000 watch time hours. And so I've got my work cut out for me, definitely. So as you can see, as I finish up here, this is the coiled portion here. Kind of hard to see with the light. Let's see. So yeah, you can see it a little better now. How right there is where it ends. Actually, it doesn't really show on the camera, but you're just gonna have to take my word for it. All of this between my fingers is the coiled portion, and then everything that remains is uncoiled. So what we're gonna do actually is grab some more of that Motocraft wire, and we're gonna do another entire arm span, wingspan length, and we're gonna do the same thing all over again, just coiling this wire around the 20 gauge wire. But this time, instead of doing that thing that I always do where I kiss the tips and do that zip tie, we don't need to do that because that's just how we start in the middle. But since we've already started in the middle, now we're just gonna attach onto the left side and the right side. So it's important that when you are attaching another wire, you have to study the direction that the coil is spinning. So for example, for this one, the coil spins around, well, it goes around this way as opposed to around that way. And it's important to study your coil and make sure you understand which direction it is so that you can continue that flow. So as I attach my wire, I attach it on the back side, so the side that's closer to the camera as opposed to the side that's closer to me from the wire. So if I were to take this wire and attach it around that way, it would be incorrect. I have to come around the back and then attach it this way, because that's how this coiled portion is already coiling. So now I'm gonna, what I do is just take like a little tip end strand and get that coiled, as opposed to trying to take this long one and wrap it around. A lot of times it's a lot easier with this shorter nub of a wire to just get that to wrap around, as you can see. Yeah, so this is the first time I'm doing a wire wrap with the front camera of my phone, and I'm starting to see, I don't know, maybe if I could just update. I guess they've got like the iPhone 16 or something is out now. I believe mine is like an iPhone 10X. So it's pretty outdated, but I don't know if they've improved the camera quality at all. Maybe I'll look into that. But either way, I'm definitely gonna need to improve my camera. So now you can see there's a little bit of a gap here. And that's because I don't want to take this entire length and keep coiling, but I will have to kind of wrap this up anyway. So maybe I will. So I've got this wrapped, and I'm gonna unbend the wire from the crank position, and I'll take my flat needle nose pliers, and then give a few more coils. I'll also bring this one in. So by bringing that in into a jumbled mess, instead of having it all the way out long, it gives me more room to work with. In fact, I'll do even one more. So now I really can just get into my flow. So this is actually, it's one other technique if you find that the whole crank technique doesn't work for you. This is, and this is kind of originally how I started. And this is, if you find it to be easier, then it's easier, and never mind the crank technique. But for me personally, once I realized that, oh, I can just do this by bringing all these in rolled up, I can crank it out a lot faster. For me, it's faster, but for you, maybe it's not. So whatever you find to be easier or more convenient, that is totally up to you. So now I've got nobody in my live currently. Feel kind of lonely. That's okay. I don't feel lonely in life. I'm very lucky to have somebody. But for this moment, I've got one viewer. Hello. And that's good enough for me. So what we're doing for the guy, oh, they're gone. As I say, what we're doing here is cranking it out live. It's tough to, I understand the challenge with the live, because if you're not getting any audience, then it's tough to want to engage the audience. And sometimes for the live, maybe they don't want to be engaged. But since I'm doing a tutorial video, a how-to, I feel like I need to be giving instructions even if there is nobody watching. And so it kind of makes me feel crazy, like I'm talking to myself. My hope is that later, after the live is posted, it still stays on YouTube and people can go back later and watch. My hope is that people will do that. Or at least my hope is that when people do that, that they don't get confused because I'm not telling them, I'm not giving the instructions or informing them on what I'm doing. I'm just doing some random stuff. The other thing too, for my intention for going live, long term, once I get more live viewers and they're curious about what I'm doing, I can interact in real time. So if somebody dropped a comment like, hey, what are you doing? I can be like, oh, I see your comment, let me explain. So we're almost getting to the end of this wire as well, which is good. So we're at like 30 minutes. So if this were just like a beginner tutorial and I was doing like that pendant that I showed earlier, probably be wrapping it up, pun intended, and coming to the finish. But for this more advanced technique, it's more time consuming, and I'm still on like the first step of just getting this one long strand of wire coiled. Hey, yeah, what am I doing? Hi Pamela. I'm doing a wire wrap, and I'm doing a kind of more intermediate or advanced style of wire wrapping. So right now I'm just what makes this style more time consuming than a more easy style wrap is it's so much more time consuming, and I'm still on like the first step of just cranking this 24 gauge wire to get coiled around this 20 gauge wire. And then once I get this wire good and coiled, I'm going to use it to wrap around the lapis lazuli stone that I have here to make a wire wrap pendant. Does that make sense? So now we've got two of my full length, full wingspan. Two of those wires attached to the 20 gauge wire. I've got one in the middle and one on the left, and now I'm going to attach one last one. Actually, I should check on the length of the stone to see if I will need another one. Should I do that now? No, I'm gonna just go for it and attach one last 24 gauge wire to that 20 gauge wire coiled around it. So once again, I have to study the direction that my initial 24 gauge wire was coiling around. So for example, this one coils like this as opposed to like this. And so if that's the direction that we're going, then that's the direction that we're going to continue with. And actually, it's going to be not on this end, so I'm going to wrap this end back up, roll it up into this bundle, and that way I'm not dealing with like a very elongated wire. I have more room to work with. So as I unfold on this end, I'm folding up on this end to keep it nice and organized. So on this end, I study the coil, and the coil is going in this direction as opposed to this direction. So I'm gonna attach this wire going in that same direction. And what I do, as I did before on the other side, I just take like a little pinch tip, just a little bit of a tip on this end, and wrap that around, as opposed to trying to challenge myself and take the full extent of this length to wrap around, be very eccentric and dramatic and not very functional. Jewelry. It's a jewelry piece. The jewelry piece, not a science project. Although it's funny though, it kind of does look like a science project when you don't know what I'm doing. How's your day going, Pamela? All right, so I use the pliers to just tuck in that pokey tip of the wire, so it's fully tucked in. And oh, another thing, by the way, I didn't explain. So when I start to coil this wire, I attach it out here. You don't have to attach it directly to where these coils finish, because you can just slide it over. So once I have that slid over, I can begin to once again continue with the crank method. And that way somebody's driving through our driveway. I don't think they're here for us. I think they're just turning around. So once I get that crank going and I can bend, my day's going all right. Let's see, I think, yeah, it's 10:30 in California time right now, so kind of like midday, early midday. I had a easy day today. I just got nothing but wire wrapping to do, so wanted to get some video shots as well. And hopefully I can teach somebody some new interesting techniques for wire wrapping. So as I build out on this end, it's important to roll up this end to keep it all neat and organized. Because otherwise, when this thing gets long, it'll start like flopping around and smack me in the face or do all this stuff that we don't want it to do. So the best way to prevent that is to keep these rolls nice and organized, as well as this one here. Nice, Pamela. What did you make? What kind of jewelry do you make? So as you can see, it's kind of getting to that point on the bottom there where it starts to kind of like a propeller gets out of control. We're almost to the end of this step, which is exciting because then I get to show you the real fun part. Nice. Yeah, I like the earrings, and when the earrings and the necklace are matching, you get the whole ensemble. You know, surprisingly, I've yet to do that, but I totally should. I think it's a good marketing technique. I do sell my work, by the way. I go to farmers markets, and I'm in a few stores locally. I'm actually looking at moving out to Chicago in this coming year. And I know that Chicago is like an artistic city. And so I'm very hopeful that I can go out and make it in that world. Being an artist has been a lifelong aspiration or dream. I don't like to say dream because a dream sounds like a fantasy, like it's not real or it will never happen. But my goal in life is to be an artist. Well, see, I don't know about even calling it a goal because the truth is I already am an artist. I just, you know, that's the life I've chosen, for better or for worse. Do you consider yourself an artist, Pamela, if you're still here? Thank you. Pamela says, best of all to you as I walk my path. I don't know if when after this live is uploaded, if viewers who watch this later are able to see the comments. Probably not. So I gotta keep that in mind. Alright, so now we've successfully attached 3 of the 24 gauge wires to the 20 gauge wire. I'm gonna uncoil it just a bit to see what kind of length we're looking at. So that's good. Now I'm gonna do another 20 gauge wire. Actually, I'm gonna do 2 20 gauge wires. Probably don't need that much wire. And so I'm just eyeballing, I want 2 of these to be, actually I will need that other coil. So let me show you what I'm doing. So I clip off this wire, and how I know that this is the appropriate length is that I'm gonna clip this wire in half. And so I kind of have a trained eyeball to see that if I were to set just one of these wires, it will definitely have enough wire to fully wrap around the stone. Visualize and create it type. I like that. That's what Pam says. That's how she identifies herself, and that's the spirit of a true artist. Although I suppose you could also just begin and then figure out what it is you're creating later is also kind of a artistic process. It's all fun as long as you're enjoying yourself. Alright, so now we've got our two 20 gauge wires that are the same length as each other, and we have our really long coiled 20 gauge wire that's wrapped and coiled with the 24 gauge wire, and we're gonna just kind of right down in the middle there. I got them twisted on this end. How did I do that? Oh, there we go. So make sure you don't get them twisted at the bottom end. As you take that coiled wire and coil it around those two 20 gauge wires. And it might be a little challenging at first, and it might even look sloppy, like you didn't do it right, but I promise you, you just keep going, and then the pattern just kind of falls into place. So this is what we're looking at. So you can see this is the coiled wire. I took 24 gauge wire, coiled it around some 20 gauge wire, and then now I'm coiling that coiled wire around two 20 gauge wires. And you want to keep coiling all the way around. In my other videos with my other style, sometimes we'll like stop here and then we'll do something different. But never mind that, that's for another style. Another thing too, as we coil along here, it will actually stretch or push all of this coiled portion together. And if you continue as you're coiling along, you might notice that it gets a little difficult or like stiff, and you're like, what's going on? Why is the wire stiff? Well, it's because all of these coils are smashed really tight together, so they don't want to bend, because as you bend, it's stretching out those coils. So that's why early on I was saying that it's not so important to have your coils nice and tight for this style of wrap, because you're going to actually need that space to ease the tension. So one way to ease the tension, I'm pinching down and pulling, and it's kind of like pulling, stretching out a slinky as I continue to wrap around. And I'll do the same thing with this other end here. Careful not to, so you can see this gap right here. This is where one wire finished and the other began. So you just want to be mindful of those points so that they don't, as you coil along, you want to make sure that there's no like pokey tips or anything that are caused by that gap. Wow, you Pamela, you do a lot. So Pamela does beading, quilting, leatherworking, and weaving. Engraved from birth. Sounds like your mother was an artist, or father maybe, I don't know. Or maybe nobody. Maybe it was just naturally inclined. So from here, I'm gonna stop and test to see how it's looking as far as the stone. The goal is that these coiled portions are gonna wrap all the way up to the top and meet each other at the top here in the middle. Nice. Pamela's grandma is the artist in her family. For me, maybe my grandma too, actually. My my grandma on my dad's side, she was I don't know if you're supposed to do this, but or if you're supposed to have favorites, but she was definitely my favorite grandparent, and yeah, she loved playing games, especially card games, and she was very competitive, and she would be she would be upset if she lost, but that's why she got so good. She really never lost. Of course, a grandma and a little boy, you know who's gonna win that game. So this looks to be about the appropriate length of what we're after, which means that all of this remaining coiled portions here are not necessary. We can do it a little bit more. Balance it out, keep it symmetric. So yeah, back when I was thinking, oh, maybe I should just do 2 wires instead of attaching a third, I could have gotten away with that, judging on the amount of excess of coiled wire here. And it's kind of a little bit frustrating because now I have to put in this extra work to not only to get these coils coiled, that was done in vain, but now I have to put in the work to uncoil them, which is even more challenging. Got Jingle Bell stuck in my head. Jingle Bell Rock, I mean. I wonder if I could cheat. I wonder if I can stretch these coils out just enough that I could take my clippers in here and clip that wire. Ooh, successful, without scratching the 20 gauge wire, the base wire. Cool, that worked. Let's try it on the other side. These coils are a little bit more stiff. Got it. Very cool. I just learned something new. Careful of the pokey wires. Duck Hunt. I remember Duck Hunt. Someone was saying that Grandma had the original Nintendo with that game Duck Hunt. This wire seems to be stuck. There we go. Boom, got it. So I'll set those scrap wires aside. Probably add it to one of my trees later. Pamela, you're an artist. You might appreciate this. Let me show you something real quick. So I've got this tree here, this wire wrap tree. And how I made it is I start with the ring on the bottom. And the ring is this wire right here. And then I start to attach on the ends a bunch of wires. So what it ends up looking like flat before I add the stone, it looks like a sun, like a kid's drawing of a sun or something. And then I put the stone right on top of the sun, and then have those sun fingers wrap around to the top, and then they start spinning around to create the tree, and then I just go on and add more and more wire. So this is my scrap wire wrap tree, which is what I'll do with these scrap wires. I'll just attach them and continue growing my tree. Pretty cool, huh? So I put a bunch of stuff in my water, that's why it's green. The green is because the spirulina that I put in the water just dominates it. Spirulina is like a chlorella. It's an algae, and it's really good for oxidizing your body. So I put some spirulina in there, some maca powder, some cordyceps, which are mushrooms. They're good for boost of energy. Some lion's mane, which is good for memory. That's another mushroom. All right, so now we've got kind of our frame set for our stone. Now the fun part begins. So what I'll do is the uncoiled portion of these 20 gauge wires, I'll bend them outwards, and then these two wires will wrap around and bring all of these wires together. And then make sure the stone still fits, which it does, good. And then you could do, sometimes I like split them apart, and I only use 2 wires, or that's really all that I've done, but I've never tried, maybe I have, but I don't remember trying all 4 wires at once. But I'm not going to do that this time, just because this wire, you could see it's a little mangled right there, so I don't want that one. It's undesirable. But these 3 here that are remaining are pretty nice and smooth, so I'm going to use those to create the neck lace loop. So I just curl them around like a roller coaster loop to loop, and make sure that the curl goes all the way down to the base there. And then from there, I'll take that wire that I decided was undesirable, and now I have a desire for it. I have a function, which is going to be to tie off that loop to loop. So I just wrap it around. And the way that I wrap is I think of it as the neck. So like this loop right here is the head, and then these are like the shoulders. These right here are the shoulders. And so what I do with that wire that was wrapping around, I start from the neck and work my way down to the body. And then once I get to the tip end of the wire, so right there you can see it, with my needle nose pliers, I just pinch tip of the wire to the tip of the pliers and curl a little hook. And then you could use those rounded pliers if you want, or I prefer with the flats, just kind of smash that so it gets tucked in under the scarf, under itself. And then now I have one of my wires is shorter. Let's see if you can see. There's that tip end there, and then the other two tips are down here. So with that short tip, I'm gonna do the same thing where I just do tip of the pliers to the tip of the wire and curl a little hook, tucking it inwards so that there's no pokey tip hanging out. And I can even just smash it in there with my pliers. And then what I'll do is maybe like a stylish curl or something with these two guys. And so how I do that is, again, tip of the pliers to the tip of the wire, and then curl like a little hook so that the pokey tip curls back onto itself. And then continue making sure that I curl a spiral as opposed to a coil. So let's see. There you go. You can kind of see it's more of a spiral, and it's flat as opposed to a coil, which goes outwards. So I'm going to do that same thing with the other wire there and create two little spirals. And that's going to be kind of like a style. So let's see if the camera can catch it. You can see there's 1 and 2 right there. And then I'll pinch them flat so they're pressed into kind of like the neck, or I'm forgetting what this is called, what part of the body that is. But anyways, press it into there, and then now I have these 2 wires remaining, and these were the wires that were, this is the 20 gauge wire that was getting coiled, and this is all the excess wire that I have. But I'm gonna have a function for it. And what I'm gonna do is carefully making sure that I continue to wrap in the same flow. It's actually gonna mirror these coils and get wedged in between. So what that looks like is it, and it's the same thing with when you're when we were attaching a new 24 gauge wire to the coils. We want to make sure that we're continuing in the same flow, in the same direction, because so right now my wire gets wrapped around this way, and then I thread it through, and then I continue that flow, so it's going in this direction. And it's important that I do that as opposed to this direction, because that will it will mess up everything. Which is funny enough, I was not paying attention, and that's what I was doing. So now I have to go back. Luckily I caught it soon enough. But yeah, you want to make sure that you're when you're wrapping, when you're coiling, that it goes in the direction that you are wanting it to. Because otherwise it will look sloppy. it will look like the pattern was broken. So I've got that started on one end here. You can see where they're kind of wrapping around. And then now I'm going to get the other side started as well. Before I do that though, I want to tuck in those spirals a little better. Now I can get this started. So I'm just threading it through this this window here. And then wrapping around the frame. Now every so often, I'm gonna bring my wires across the window, like so, and then attach it to the other side. Ooh, I'm getting low battery. Hopefully I could finish this live before my phone dies. If not, oh well. Ah, you're back. Welcome back. I thought you had left. I am curious what your idea for my tree is. Welcome back, Pamela. So I'm about done, actually, and I realized that I myself skipped a few steps, but I kind of rushed it because I saw my phone is running out of juice. But hopefully, Pamela, you can. I'm really curious what your idea was for my tree, but I am about to end this live. So this is the final product. My lapis pendant. Okay, thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Bring it to life and give it lighting. You know, I had the same idea, and I'm still working out how to do that. I thought about getting those like little wire fixtures. Um, I'm still trying to get the works of, because right now when you buy those, they all just come in one strand. But if I could get one that would branch out like a tree does, that would be perfect. I have to figure it out though. Okay, I'll see you next time. Please like and subscribe if you